For more on Ramadan's impact on the economy, I'm joined in studio by Hafed Al Ghwell, Senior Fellow at SAIS, Foreign Policy Institute at John Hopkins University. Welcome back to the show.
Lovely to see you.
Good to see you too. So a lot of people are wondering, as we saw, huge revenue expected in Britain, but does Ramadan have a wider impact, economic impact in Muslim countries, also beyond this period?
It does, because it has a number of factors involved here. One is, of course, the even sort of overconsumption of food and household products, because you have all these social interactions that happen at night where these lavish dinner and social events take place in Ramadan. You also have, from the middle of Ramadan, so about in this week, people begin to buy gifts and in preparation of the Eid, the end of Ramadan. So you have also a big surge there in terms of clothing and toys for the kids and gifts for the family and so on. So you have a lot of economic activity, a lot of demand going on in Ramadan, similar to what you see in the West in December for Christmas. On the counter side, however, is you have a much lower productivity levels.
Right.
Hours are cut down for work. People are lethargic, very hard
Yes.
to get up and go to work. So there are a number of studies that have been done showing that there is a real downturn in terms of productivity. And it also depends on where you are in the world. As you know, the number of hours of the day are different in Europe from they are, for example, in the equator.
So in terms of companies preparing for this, not just preparing really to help their co-workers who may be struggling with productivity, but also some of these restaurants and hotels, how can they prepare for this shift in the observance habits during this time?
It became sort of quite normal across the Muslim world in general. I mean, Europe and the United States are just beginning to accommodate that. But for example, throughout the Muslim world, you have very lavish plans for Ramadan. If you walk around in the city of Cairo, for example, they have these, especially the hotels and restaurants, they will open what they call the Ramadan tents, which open in the evening, where people come and break their fast, but then spend the night more or less there for entertainment, all kinds of events taking place, until the end of the night. So you have a lot of the hotels prepare for that. Outside tourism coming into the Middle East, for example, or the other Islamic countries, it goes down a little bit, because when you go to many of these Muslim countries, life during the day is almost non-existent. Restaurants close. Also, a lot of the things, for example, in a place like Cairo, it's illegal to sell alcohol throughout the month, illegal
Right.
to have nightclubs. So a lot of that stuff dies down, but internally, the population enjoys a really lavish month of overconsumption.
And speaking of consumption, we know that when it comes to halal products, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. How does that tend to fare during this period and beyond? And we see obviously a lot of things like more modest clothing, more modest swimsuits and things like that also hitting the market.
Those are quite traditional throughout the year in Muslim countries. Halal products are extremely in demand throughout the year. Some people never even tasted anything other than halal meat, for example. So within the Muslim world, those are a year-round sort of demand on them. In the West, it became sort of more or less a trend for major retailers, including here, for example, in the United States, you have Walmart, you have Costco, and these places begin to sort of display more halal products during Ramadan, or have all kinds of specials and sales for Muslims on dates and these kind of things that are quite common during Ramadan. So there is a major demand going on by the Muslim communities in Europe and the United States on this product. Ironically,
Right.
more or less now you have a lot of also non-Muslims who who practice fasting. I have some friends who are doing that as a part of health trend. because they heard that fasting is a very good thing for the body and so on. So
now,
that's another issue.
I do want to get to this idea of trends, because obviously you have now technology playing a bigger role in Ramadan. Tell us a little bit about that, and also some of the concerns about over-commercialization during this holiday.
It is. I mean, that's a major issue. As you have the same debates you have in the West during Christmas, that this is supposed to be a month of spiritual contemplation, a month of social coherence, a month of charity and taking care of the poor and so on. Yet it's now becoming more and more a commercialized event, you know, of toys and clothing and night events and so on. The one thing that is also important to note is that during Ramadan, people begin to prepare what's called the zakah, which is the tax, the Islamic tax, that they pay at the end of the month, and it goes to the poor and all kinds of charitable products, charitable channels. So there is also another trend here in terms of raising funds for all kinds of issues. So television and technology plays a major role in that. Everybody is competing to get the zakah for their own cause, depending. So that also, you will notice a major trend on all kinds of technologies there.
Well, thank you for breaking all that down for us. Incredibly interesting. Always good to have you on.
Thank you.
Hafed Al Ghwell, the Senior Fellow at SAIS, Foreign Policy Institute at Johns Hopkins University.